Yo, how are you doing today, man?
Hey, doing good, man. How about yourself?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Today's been
Yeah.
a busy day, but a good day. My wife goes back to work next week, a week from today, from maternity leave. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. I know you're a father as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so we're kind of we got a 2 year old and a 4 month old, and
2 and a 4
so
month old, man. Y'all, yeah, yeah, yeah.
you remember
So,
those days?
yeah, man, all too well.
Yeah. How old are
Yeah.
yours?
I only have one 4 year old, so
Four. Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. Biggest blessing ever, man. And I'm just excited to chat with you, man. Yeah, I mentioned you on a message about any of the business, and that's how I came across your content. And then there's just something that's really exciting about seeing people like yourself who I'm not gonna just say crack the code, but like who figured out how to turn their passion, which we have the same passion of music,
Mm.
into something sustainable. And now, as I was reading through the email today with like your event coming up, which obviously we're going to talk about, just being able to put together something like this to share with people is like really incredible.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Of course, man, of course. So one question that I love asking all my guests is to learn a little bit about them sort of growing up. I want to know what little Yaahn was like. So what were you like growing up?
I mean, honestly, just trying to get a shot at playing the drums and
Mm,
at my dad's church, and just loving music at a very early age.
mm-hmm,
Sports, playing basketball,
mm-hmm,
a little bit of baseball, junior giants in the Bay Area
mm-hmm.
for I
Nice.
think about a couple of seasons, and ping pong was a big one.
Wow.
And just loved everything about the '90s, a '90s kid.
Oh,
So Nickelodeon, Snick.
yeah, dude. Okay, bringing it way
All,
back. Yes,
yeah, man, just that
yes.
that whole vibe of that time, and listening to like Will Smith, and it's just a unique time. I love the '90s, so yeah.
Yeah. Dang, man. Yeah, that brings you back. There was a show on VH1. I don't know. I must have been in middle school or something like that. We were on vacation, and there was
Mhm.
a show by that very name called "I Love the '90s" that
Yeah,
was literally that. It was just like some comedians at the time who were just sharing stuff about the '90s culture and all these things. At that time, it was like maybe I don't know 8 years or so past the end of the '90s or whatever. But like we were
yeah,
in Florida watching this, and we watched one episode, and then like me and my whole family, like that became like the whole theme of the whole vacation. Like we were just like fixated. It was like a marathon or something. We were just like fixated. Like forget Florida, forget the weather, forget going out by the pool. Like we just want to like watch this because it's like consuming us.
yeah,
Uh
hundred
huh.
percent.
Definitely. So you mentioned drums. So drums was your first instrument, your main instrument. Would you say even up to this point that's like your bread and butter?
Uh, Relatively, it was my bread and butter in college for sure, at
Okay.
Berkeley. But started out on drums, playing drums at church, and watching phenomenal Bay Area, now world renowned global drummers like Thomas Pridgeon would come through my dad's church, and Eric Moore,
Uh huh.
and so
Wow.
many other dope drummers that I was blessed to come up under and emulate what they did. Can't forget my god brother Carlin McCullough,
Hmm.
another phenomenal drummer. So I just followed that path, and had a great childhood, coming up playing drums.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the West Coast. So you're born and raised, and you're currently living in California.
So born and raised in the Bay Area. Shout out to the Bay. Y'all know what it is, West Coast. But I'm in Atlanta now, but
Nice. Okay.
definitely spent all of my majority of my years in California.
Nice. Very cool.
Hmm.
Very cool. And then so I'm curious to know. So drums being the first thing, and then obviously at some point from when you first started to right now, you got into music production, learning other facets, all the facets, to be able to call yourself a music producer, and just a music maker. So like, tell me about that process a bit. Like when did you maybe get your first foray into other areas of music outside of drums?
Yeah, I would say about. I mean, off the record, from most people don't know, I got into making beats when I was about like 11, 12. Came up watching my dad. He would record in his studio, in his studio in his office at the house, and so it was always amazing for me to see him record a drum loop, and then it would keep going when he would stop playing, and the performance kept going on, and that just intrigued me into recording. I love that process. I love seeing it as a kid and watch him, start from a drum loop to a full song in, 10, 15 minutes. And then I got on and emulated what he was doing. And so he kind of, showed me firsthand what music production was, from a keyboard player's perspective. So inherently, I ended up picking up the keys because I wanted to add melodies and everything to my beats. And I started on the Ensoniq SQ1. That was my dad's board. And then he had a Roland D20, and then he let me have the D20. And then eventually they bought me my first MPC 2000 XL. So that was like the introduction to me transitioning from just drums to production. That was about like anywhere from about 11 to 12 years old for that transition.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
That's cool. I feel like everyone has their, their story. That's like, I can always see like that level of nostalgia and just like a nice memory to think back to. Like even in my case, when I turned 16, my dad knew at that point I was kind of like showing signs of being interested in music production and things like that. And he brought me to either Sam Ash or Guitar Center.
Oh yeah,
and, right. Yep. So he brought me in, and we were there. And he said, "Look, for your birthday this year, I know this is something you're interested in. So you and me can go half and half. Right? You're gonna put something up for this." And he ended up helping me get my very first major keyboard, the Yamaha Motif.
Yeah,
and had a blast with that thing. And then took a hiatus away from it. And then when I turned 30 a few years ago. 6-7 years ago now, is when I kind of got back into the space, man. Every time I would see, so my instrument is a piano, right? So every time I would see either a piano or keyboard or something that resembled it, right? I don't know, some white and black vertical, rectangles. I would just always be like, man, this feels like a missed opportunity. In my 20s, like I was like, I want to get back to it at some point. And so as I was approaching my 30th, I was like, all right, let me figure this out. I actually uncovered the same physical book, piano book that I used when I was in 6th grade, when I first signed up for lessons for 1 year. And I went through that book in its entirety and talked about nostalgia. That was amazing, right? Like relearning these songs and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. And then did the YouTube thing for a bit just to kind of continue building the foundation. And then when I felt ready, signed up for lessons myself. And then at some point, a couple of years later, it was time for me to integrate, giving lessons into my overall tutoring business and stuff. And it's really remarkable because I would say like one thing that I find like I mentioned earlier that's just so noteworthy is figuring out how. Well, I guess all right. There's two things. One of them is figuring out whether or not the right strategy for you for your own self is finding your passion, knowing what your passion is, and then figuring a way to monetize that, right? Some people say, of course you do that. Like you love doing it. You're going to do it when you would just do it inherently. So why not figure a way? Other people say the contrary to that. Other people say, your passion is something that you want to not have any pressure on. You want to not have anything that you need to, or whatever the case is. And I don't know if there's any right or wrong, response to that. I guess it just depends on the individual. And I've gone through both seasons. I think right now I'm in a space where I'm like putting more effort, right, into a lot more effort into my tutoring business, into the things that are, having 2 kids is a major part of this, of course. But the thing that's bringing in money and not letting the referrals and stuff just kind of happen, but actually going for it. And then I'm just kind of like, my YouTube channel, getting music gear and doing all these things. I'm kind of just like not like taking a little break from needing to put out content, and just kind of when I feel like playing, when I feel like I got like I'll keep looking over there. I got the new Roland Phantom over there with the Nord piano connected to it. So I got them both, like the 61 key and the 88 key, like connected. And so it's exciting. It's like everything on that at this point doesn't need to be shared. But I will say this. I think when I was reading through your bio and kind of understanding about what it is that you do right now, just realizing that there's a breadth of different avenues, right? From a musical producer standpoint, that you can go, that I can kind of just keep making stuff, and then like not, I mean, maybe you have to work hard to set some stuff up, I guess, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you about. But eventually, like maybe you get to the point where you can just have fun and just create the music and stuff, and you have your sync licensing account wherever that may be. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, like kind of how did you go from, having fun with the music stuff, understanding how to produce, etc., into a space where it's like, yo, I want to learn how to make money with this stuff, and I want it to be sustainable. Like, what was that sort of transition like for you?
Most definitely. I would say one, going to school, so graduating from Berkeley College of Music, and knowing that I was going to have a massive amount of student loan debt because I did not go on the presidential scholarship. So I am definitely paying my tail off for that degree now. So that was an indicator right away to start making money from doing music.
Sure.
Just one of the many. So playing in church was an easy start because my dad was a pastor, and being around musicians. So I was very familiar with making money in music at a very young age. I was making like $400 a week playing at my dad's church. So nice. Very familiar with like some form of income. Now, $1,600 a month in California is, it is what it is. Yeah, so, implementing production. So after school, basically working with artists for free to get my sound and, everything out there to really showcase, that, hey, I really do this, spending, all those years in school and, over 10,000 hours of practice doing it. Yeah. So coming back from Berkeley, basically just working for free for a little bit while playing at church and still gigging and touring. I was doing that still too as a musician. Yeah. But then I made a decision to, all right, I'm not going to take any more gigs. I'm not going to go on the road anymore. I'm just going to focus on production. And so from me doing, shout out to my sis, Lauren Denise Bird's record for free, that was like the catalyst of like everyone heard what I could do outside of just playing drums, outside of just playing keys in church, but like, oh, like you actually produce. So I started getting calls to produce people's records. And so I just played at the time 3 churches, and then I was producing records and I stopped gigging. Yeah. And that was the initial start of like how to make money in music, was just doing production work for hire. And then I started mixing. And then later led to, being fully independent now on this side of things in terms of, content and monetization that way. So that's kind of like the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really dope. And I mean, I want to kind of mention one thing that you mentioned. I think that's very noteworthy. Doing things for free at a time like that's like a big thing, right? Like when you're starting, for experience, and it resulted in something amazing for you. That's what started the call. That's what got your name out there, essentially, right?
Yeah, for sure. Especially for production, in particular. There were a few things that popped off on the internet, like a few viral videos from me in my early career as a musician. So people were familiar with me to a certain extent as a musician, but as a producer, I didn't showcase that until way later on. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself like, I think some people are and some maybe are not when it comes to music producers or people just in the music space. So individual, and I used to be this way, and now I'm turning a lot less like it, when it's like so much gear that's out there. There's always a new thing, always a new app, always a new this, that. Me, I felt like a need to get it and talk about it on my YouTube channel. That was like my main thing. But I've not quickly, over time, because recently, this took many years, but I realized that there's like a learning curve, obviously, with any new piece of thing or gear or app that you're using. And then that learning curve, for the most part, is a total different, creative endeavor than just going to the thing that very well, that you don't have to think about how to use it. You could just use it to just be creative, right? So do you consider yourself more on either side of the fence? Do you like when a new piece of gear comes out, you're like, oh shoot, I need to get my hands on this? Or do you have a really symbiotic balance between both sides of that?
It's a good question. I would say I'm more centered. I've been centered for the last few years, honestly, not in a boastful way, but more of a focus.
Yeah. Okay.
I was really focused on one, just monetizing my YouTube channel, getting the watch time and all of
Sure.
that. And then after a while, I started to figure out, okay, this is my thing. This is my niche in terms of the style of music that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Chill
then
house.
yeah, we got like the lo-fi, chill R&B
Yes, sir.
vibes and stuff like that. So that's my
Yep.
latest record. But yeah, branding is the main thing. Branding yourself will help you focus 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Knowing what it is that you want to be or that you are going to be known for helps you just know what to deliver and what to kind of, maybe you could venture out a tiny bit perhaps, but like this is the thing that I'm known for. Yeah, that's been the hardest thing for me, Jan. I think when you hear the niche word, right, and you hear
hmm
people say like that is what you need to do, and I'm like, wait a second, that, and I push back on that, like not because I think that there is another way or believe that there is. It's just like challenging for me, and it's still
sure.
to this day is now I'm starting to kind of get some clarity, and it's like like an old wise sage. Like it took several years, but now I'm like, okay, like I get it. I get it a lot more now. I get how like this conversation we're having here. I love having these conversations. I love doing Khordmaster keys. Is this something that is bringing in a lot of money? No, not right now. Is it something that's very, very fulfilling from one way and most of the time both ways? Absolutely. And is it something that I could strategically, and this is where I'm like currently I'm in this season right now. I mentioned my tutoring business, KMAT, got the shirt and everything. But
Hey,
is this
let's go.
something I could strategically? It's kind of like it's so obvious to me right now, but it's like people have sponsored content. They get a company, right? Sometimes like pay them for this video is sponsored by so and so. Why can't I sponsor my own content? Why can't I say that
Exactly.
this interview is sponsored by KMAS and do something a little witty, a little funny, clever, whatever, show my sense of humor? But it's like, it's me talking, and then it just goes into me. It gets like, wait, and something like a joke, like, wait a second, do you guys thought it was someone else or whatever the case is? But like flexing like that sort of comedic side, that's always been like a part that I've suppressed because I've been
Mm,
more like serious on content and all this stuff. But now I'm starting to just lean into it and just have fun with it, and while being systematic with everything that I do,
mm-hmm.
that's
100%.
where. hmm So I'll say, I guess, two things with regards to. I want to actually talk a little bit about your event, Beat to Bank. So obviously, boom, pulled it up
Hey.
right on there. So yeah, this is what stopped me in my tracks, man. I thought the production. I mean, first of all, Henny, you obviously know Henny and stuff.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
he's the person who, unbeknownst to him at the time, got me into being a YouTuber and stuff. And now we have a good relationship and everything, like a mentor mentee relationship. So when he posts stuff, like I go out my way to see what he's talking about. It's not just random stuff that he puts out. So that's why I went ahead and checked your stuff, and I want to talk about this. So I guess the first question I'm curious about, like, is this your first such event like this, or have you done something like this before?
I would say I've done things like this before, but I think it's on a different scale now. It's
Okay.
it's on a completely different scale in a good way now.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
I think that, yeah, it's incredible. So tell us a little bit about it. I know you're gonna have about what, four other guests on here on this panel talking about all areas that I need to be. I'm like I mentioned earlier. Like, okay, I love making music. What are some, maybe do you need to dive fully in, or am I able to focus mostly on the stuff that I mentioned, but also kind of have some things that I'm pouring, that I'm a transition from the stuff that I create into a way to get myself out there. So tell us a little bit about like what this event is, how people can actually sign up for it and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Beat to Bank is all about being able to make money doing music full time. I know that's a scary thing, especially when we have safety nets. For me, my 9 to 5 would definitely be when I was playing in church. So I
Mm,
played in church up until 2020 of April, and then I went
okay.
completely independent, doing content full time and being an artist.
Mm,
So it's all about sharing these experiences. We've all encountered it. London is going to be there. Jay Nolan is going to be there. And as you mentioned, Henny the Business is going to be there. And we're all going to be sharing our experience and being able to, do music full time. This is what it's all about. So the topics are going to be sync licensing. That's going to be huge, coming from London and Jay Nolan. Henny is going to be bringing more value on the YouTube side and his journey there. And then I'm going to be talking about making money as an independent artist and as a content creator across different platforms like Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and how to monetize in different ways. And as a, self-sufficient, if you will, store to back up your content, where you can have your, sound packs, MIDI packs, stuff like that. I'm going to be bringing up ways to monetize that way. And Jay Nolan is definitely going to be speaking on the independent artist side, as well as sync licensing, the tag team with London. So it's going to be a jam-packed event. So, of course, if you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you are, we're going to have this linked in the description for you to be able to get your tickets right away. And it's limited seating. In their limited virtual seating. So if you want to get involved, it's good to jump on it right away. Also, we have some perks, like if you buy the Play a Song ticket, those are going pretty quick. We also have the one-to-one sessions with myself and London, and I think it might be safe to say by the time people are seeing this, those tickets are going to be sold out. Right. There's only one left for myself and London, and anything can happen between now and then. So that's pretty much the information on Beat to Bank.
Right. That's fire, man. I mean, what it sounds like to me, and that's why I was so excited about talking to you. And remind us real quick the date for that again.
And the date is September the 21st, and it's going to be from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Dope. Yeah, this is going to be one of these things where it's like this goes out either this Thursday or next Thursday. Let's say, either this or next Thursday it'll go out. But my thought is like, there's so many people out there that need this information, and a lot of there's so much information out there. There's so much, like, I don't know, hundreds or thousands of hours of YouTube videos of people sharing, some valuable stuff, and then maybe some stuff that's not as valuable, et cetera, et cetera. Understanding that we are all different, and that, like what worked for one person may not work for the next. But what I love about what you're talking about is it sounds to me like someone like myself or any of my, community members who follow this channel who are into making music, the vast majority of them, of course that they would want to know some, I'm not gonna use the word easy, but just like clear and actionable, maybe is the best way to say it, right? Ways of being able to turn these 4-bar loops into something. And I mean that's where I am, right? Like I think a big piece, and I have all these ideas and so many different ideas, so many different things I want to work on, a lot of them music related. But my niche when it comes to producing music, 1000% is the 4-bar loop or the 8-bar loop. Everything prior to that, meaning sound design and finding samples and doing all like that stuff, I don't really care for sound design. I just want to find some dope presets and like use my chord knowledge and music theory to create it. Everything that comes after that, putting a song together, mixing and mastering and fleshing it out, all that stuff, I'm also not as I don't really enjoy doing as much, or I'm not as experienced in that. So for me, it's kind of interesting where I think there's a lot of people that I've spoken to that are in that same category. And I think it's kind of interesting that, and you tell me if I'm wrong about this, but there for sure are people out there that need the thing that I'm good at, right? They may not have the skills or the talents or whatever to come up with that 4-bar loop, but they're amazing mixing and mastering, or they're amazing at designing the sounds that I can then use to kind of produce. And so when you mentioned the beat packs and all that kind of stuff, like, do you think that there would be opportunities for people who are in that category to say, oh yeah, I don't have to learn much other stuff. I can kind of just keep doing what I'm doing, but now I could put it to, I don't know, like this sync licensing database or something like that, because people are looking for that exact thing. Is that kind of like what can be an idea for people that are in my shoes?
I think for people in your shoes, in terms of a 4-bar loop, would definitely be to release your loops for for people to purchase. I think that's the easiest, fastest way to get dollar in hand
Gotcha.
for your skill set right now. Sync licensing is definitely going to be beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit more broad.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have briefs, contracts,
Mm-hmm.
certain scenarios that they may be looking for.
Sure.
So, but in terms of you doing your own thing and you maintaining full autonomy of your creative work, and you being able to distribute it yourself, I think releasing your own loop packs would be phenomenal.
That's fire. Tell me about your bread and butter currently, like with regards to producing music. I see the MPC Key 37 in front of you. I checked that out. Checked out the 61 key. Is
Mm.
that like your current thing that you like enjoy most in terms of making music, or do you have like different things?
So my main workhorse is going to be Ableton.
Nice.
I just recently switched over to Ableton within the last year and a half. Prior to that, I was in Logic Pro for over 10 years.
What made you switch?
The workflow, me being an artist,
Mm,
my approach with production has shifted in I would say, a good way.
yeah.
And yeah, it just matches where I'm at, the style of music that I'm doing. I was kind of all over the place previously with,
Hmm.
stuff that I've done in the past. And now again, like we talked about branding. So I'm more focused and I
Mm,
understand, I've branded this chill vibe, this nice, and I've had a couple of songs go viral, off, just it being a unique chill vibe. And so
yeah.
that kind of just helped me to focus a lot, like, okay, this is what we do, this is what works, we need to
Mm,
scale this, we need to get it out and duplicate it as fast as possible. So I would say in my opinion, from my own experience, that Ableton has helped me, it's improved the workflow a lot better.
that's dope. Was it a challenge in transition? Like knowing, obviously, you probably spent several years in Logic and then kind of going. Was it like smooth, or was it a little overwhelming, a little rocky at first?
So there's the honeymoon phase of
Mm,
anything. It's new and it's exciting, and you're just, you're over the moon. So, the honeymoon phase. Then there's where you actually get to know who you're with,
yeah.
what you're dealing with. So when I got to that phase with Ableton, that was the frustrating part, because it's just like, all right, the high is over. It's like, okay, I'm trying to learn how to do this. I got to go on YouTube for this.
Mm,
But then one day everything clicked. Everything made
wow.
perfect sense.
Yep.
Once that happened, that was the magical moment. And I think a lot of Ableton users can say the same. When you have that aha moment in Ableton, you're literally unstoppable. It's nothing you can't do. So
That's fire.
yeah.
Do you use a lot more like the plug-in side of the house, or some stock stuff, or a little bit of both?
I use third party and stock.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, it's to the point now where, in terms of mixing, Ableton stock plugins are like, I mean, they sound really good. And
Yeah.
and it and it
Yeah.
it this I like the sound that I'm getting from it for sure.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, yeah, your event. So, do you see yourself like kind of assessing how it went, and like, I don't know, getting into this space a lot more heavy in the future, like doing more of these? I would imagine the answer is probably yes to that.
Uh, yeah. So
Yeah,
most definitely, for sure.
that's fire, man. Yeah, I think that's yeah. I don't know of or if a lot of other people are doing anything like it, but I just think that yeah, it's just, I mean, people sell courses and stuff, but the idea of this being it like a live event, is super dope. So yeah, I'll definitely do what I got to do from my end to make sure that people in the community know about it, because a lot of people who know me, who follow my channel, definitely know Henny. I'm surprised that I came across your stuff when like just random. I mean, I guess that's how it happens a lot of the time, but I'm glad
Yeah.
I did when I did though, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. So from a social media standpoint, so like what's your relationship with like the fact that you're an artist, you're a musician? Sometimes, we know that the I forget the word that they use, but that flow state musically happens probably a lot of the time when, maybe it's not recording, right? And then but we need to show up on social media.
Hmm.
How do you manage that? Do you feel like you're very structured when it comes to saying I need this number of pieces of content out per week? Do you kind of have more of an organic approach towards it?
Yeah, definitely structured,
Okay.
and even more structured now, moving forward, preparing for 25. Um, I would say in terms of creation time, what I've learned to do is turn on the camera while I'm creating
Hmm.
and make a piece of content around that moment. And then there's times where I'm just, my own time, maybe with the Key 37 or my Ableton push, and I'm just kind of, fleshing out some ideas and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That type of content ends up being performance videos
Mm-hmm.
later, and then
Okay.
I'll share what I did in private publicly, and then I'll just, I mean, I'm a musician, but I'm pretty much, gonna, shoot myself in the foot for saying this, but basically, I just, reenact what I did,
Sure.
for camera, on camera purposes when I don't do it in front of the camera. So,
Sure.
but because the music speaks to me first,
Mm-hmm.
and me, hearing it and receiving it in my spirit first, you can tell that even though I'm syncing to what I already did, you can tell it's authentic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You can feel it over the camera. It's like this dude is having a really good time. That's a lot of emotion and
Yeah.
energy to just be faking it. So a lot of people can feel the authenticity of, even though it's pre-recorded, they can still feel the organic nature of me enjoying what I created. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And want that, I'm sure, for themselves. So it's like infectious, right? Maybe
yeah,
they see that and they're like, man, I don't know, I haven't sat down in a while, in a whole week, and created something, and they get inspired to do so. And that's really cool that you're super cognizant, about that. When it comes to Ableton,
mm.
session versus arrangement view, obviously that's a major, like thing different between, that and a lot of other DAWs. Do you find yourself using one of those a lot more than the other, or you kind of bounce back and forth?
Both, because different purposes.
Yep.
Since I DJ, I sold my turntable, but I DJ on the Ableton Push now.
Oh, cool.
But
Wow.
me, the DJing sets are all done in session view.
Okay.
And then when
Wow.
I'm creating vibes, there are times where I create vibes in session view 100% because there's something about capturing that organic workflow of something, looping, and you're adding layers in real time without ever stopping that
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
So session view is dope for that. But typically on the norm, I'll be in arrangement view for the creation process of something. And then
Yeah.
when I do my DJ sets, that's going to be in session view. Or if I do my live performance sets, majority of them are going to be in session view because I love being able to transition out of one thing to the next and mesh things up like a DJ would. So yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. So you've used a DJ controller that you said you sold recently, but you had that hooked up to Ableton at the time.
Uh,
Is that what was controlling that?
I was using a Serato, DJ
Okay.
Serato Pro, but I had the Hercules T7, and I
Okay.
was actually spinning and doing the full blown DJ thing,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was fun. And then again, like we talked about earlier about focus and branding, it's like, well, what do I want to brand? What do I want to, when people see a piece of gear, what do they think? Or if they see me, what piece of gear do they think of first?
Mm-hmm.
So I think unintentionally I've branded the Key 37, even though I
Mm-hmm.
haven't used it for that long. But
Mm-hmm.
my presence on social media with it it's just resonated with people. So, um,
Mm-hmm.
but in person, if you see me live, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna see me with the push.
Right.
Yeah.
That you use your push like standalone,
Yes.
and with okay,
Yeah.
because the put yeah, I mean this might be, I was just talking about not getting more stuff, but the push, my time with the push 2 many years ago when I was trying to figure out like what my main thing was going to be,
Mm.
I bought it. I made some amazing stuff with it and loved using it. Ended up returning it because I was like, it doesn't have a keyboard in it, and I just wanted something that's standalone, kind of like at the time the MPC keys weren't around,
Hmm.
but I wanted something that can do everything but mainly keyboard focus. But it's such a breathtakingly fun and instant and just dope way of making music, And
Hmm.
so you use it mostly standalone, or you use it sometimes as a controller with Ableton as well, the push.
The Push 3 I use in standalone majority of the time. Just because that's what it's built for.
That's what it
It's
is.
it's
Yeah.
my it's my Ableton set in the box. I can produce a full Ableton set in session view only right now at the
Yep.
time of this recording. But
Yep.
get my set ready, save it to the Push 3, and I have the same equivalent set.
And you
And
rolling.
it's
Yeah.
it's there, so I don't even need a computer at all to run my set. So it's really fun.
That's dope. All right, we're gonna ask some rapid fire questions, if I may.
For sure.
All right. So first question is, name a TV show and a movie that you love.
Definitely Fresh Prince, a movie that I love. Probably the Avengers, the first Avengers,
Okay, the original.
the original Avengers. Yeah.
Have you seen? I don't watch a lot of superhero movies, but Deadpool, Joker, and the Batman trilogy, Christopher Nolan. These are ones. I mean, these are the other side of the fence. Obviously, DC.
Yeah.
Well, some of those are DC, right? I guess Deadpool's not DC. I don't think, right? But yeah, those are. Have you seen some of those? Have you seen like Logan? I'm watching right now, for example.
Mhm.
The pretty epic, pretty crazy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure.
Gritty. Right.
Yeah.
I'm having a good time. I feel like yeah, eventually maybe I will go through some more of them, because the Marvel movies are popular for a reason. I mean, people love them.
Mhm.
I feel like there's just so many of them now. It's like it's hard for me to like know where to start, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. Understood.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so next question is name a place that you visited that you loved.
Ooh, place that I visited that I love. I would say probably. Ooh, that's hard. I love going to Monterey in California.
What makes it so nice? I never been.
I think it was the accessibility. It's only like 2 hours away from where we were at the time, but you got a beautiful beach, a beautiful view, you got a beautiful mall, beautiful restaurants. Everything is just beautiful, and it was all inclusive. Now I've been to Europe and other states and all that, so definitely that. But I think it's just something about, again, the accessibility. When I was in California, it's only about a 2.5 hour drive, 2 hour drive from where we were.
Wow.
So just being able to have access to that, and you can go there and book an Airbnb or a hotel whenever and be in paradise, I think that's dope. But I think it's skewed because, say, if I lived in Miami, I would probably name a spot in Miami that would be the equivalent of that. So because of that, it'll be a little biased.
Monterey, that's good to know. That's very good to know. Yeah, I'm like researching some, again, always different ideas and stuff. Airbnb arbitrage. This may or may not stay in the video or not, but yeah, it's a space that I have a few really good friends who are trusted and who know what they're doing, who are in that space, which is renting a property and then short term leasing it, getting like a year rental and then short term leasing it.
Most definitely.
And if you do it right, there seems to be, so like for me, when I hear that, I'm like, okay, that's a place never heard of. Or heard of but don't know much about. So that could be looking for like year-round type places, So I'll definitely keep that in mind.
Yeah, Monterey is beautiful.
For sure. All right, and last question I'm going to ask you. I'll actually ask you this to you both different ways. Usually I let the people choose one way.
Okay.
So let's go with this. So you have a chance to have lunch with any person spanning the history of time. I want to know who that person is that you're going to have lunch with. Take a moment to think about it. And then the second version of that question is, you have a chance to have lunch with anyone, like an actual living person right now. So I want to know who would you like to sit across from. We'll go with either one first, whatever one you kind of have an idea for.
Okay, a point in history. It's skewed and biased. In terms of, since we're talking about music, majority of the time, I'm gonna keep it there.
Yep.
It's definitely gonna be Jay Dilla. I wish we could have had
a
conversation for me to pick his brain of his workflow on the MPC 3000. What it really was. We all hear it. We all understand it. If you're a fan of Jay Dilla, you know exactly. You say Jay Dilla, you know exactly the vibe that we're referencing. I would have picked his brain on his 3000 workflow to debunk all of the theories and conspiracies. I would want to hear from his mouth. And the second thing I would want to know from him is what drew him to these different genres of music and styles of music that he sampled. Like, how did he know to go for Ronnie Foster, or how did he know to go for all these old fusion records? Like, and
Wow.
I would want to pick his brain about, like, how did the music speak to him in such a way to cause him to create the things that he did. So I would love to, and then also just pick his brain about musicality overall. What led him to buy a 3000 and a Voyage, Moog, and like, what led you there? What were you listening to do that?
Right.
Present day, I would want to link up with Will Smith for sure. He's a free thinker. We all have our moments for sure. A lot of us are blessed that we're just not on camera with our moments. So there's that. So, but definitely Will. And I would definitely throw in a Jazzy Jeff. I would throw in both of them together, and I would throw in Kirk Franklin. Those three. I'm kind of cheating, but I would want to talk to them all sitting at the table because they all hold the keys to hip hop, R&B, and being on the Philly side all the way to Houston, Texas, and to even the choirs that Kirk Franklin worked with in his earlier years before he kind of really became known for a standalone artist. But they hold the keys to a lot of stuff that we know and love. So yeah.
That's amazing. Well, two things. First of all, this is the first time anyone, maybe including myself, but certainly a guest, has ever referred to anything on my show, which is called Khordmaster Keys, by saying keys, like saying the way that you did. So I think that's mad dope. I was very like emotional just that. That was very dope. And then the second thing is, like, it's really about J Dilla, which you mentioned. It's really very, very noteworthy that, and maybe I'll ask you, or maybe ask the audience who's listening, like, he, at the time of his passing, he was nowhere near as acclaimed and as revered, right, as he is like today. Is that a true statement? Did he get bigger after as a result? I could be wrong. I could be mistaken. I'm curious about that because I didn't know as much about him when he was, what I'm saying, like when he was living. Maybe I didn't listen to
I think you heard him and you didn't know it was him.
Oh, okay. So his influence was there.
I mean, we all, Voodoo from D'Angelo was an album that you could have sworn that Dilla produced, but he didn't. But his influence was so transparent. It was just like, okay, I need my royalties because y'all like encapsulated my sound in this body of work with my slur, my sway, with my drums. And Questlove, learned how to play the way Dilla produced his drums, with the lazy kick drum and the snare and the hi-hat. But in terms of notoriety, he had to have been known because he got placements with Common, Erykah Badu, all these big artists, neo-soul artists at the time. So I think he was known, but I think now with access to technology and people, getting NPCs again, he comes up in the picture. And I think, of course, with technology and time, he's more recognized now, but I would say he was definitely recognized in his day. But I think it was just you came across him before you knew it was him.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Would you put him towards the top, if not at the top of your list of favorite producers?
He's like he's probably my top. Out of the top 5, he's probably number 1, my favorite producer. And then from there on in, I'm inspired by your Quincy Jones and your more, well-versed musician-based type of producer. And it kind of trickles from there. But Dilla's at the forefront.
That's dope, man. Yo, this was a extremely insightful conversation. I'm glad I wanted to ask some questions to kind of like get a high level of the stuff that you guys are going to be talking about to just kind of
Hmm.
entice others, you know. I think I definitely appreciate you sharing some information on that front. And yeah, man, I'm very much looking forward to being a part of that rollout. And just like I said, doing what I can to just make people aware because I think it's a dope idea, and yeah, I'm glad we were able to set up time to do this.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you for having me, brother.
Of course, man. So now it's family time. Now we go spend some time with the family.
Exactly.
That's what it is, man. So
100%.
have a great one, brother.
Thank you, man. You too, brother.